This was known as Japan's food basket. But the farmers here won't be harvesting any crops in the foreseeable future. Some 10,000 hectares of arable land have been devastated by the tsunami, and that's in this one prefecture alone. It's almost 4 weeks later, and some of the rice paddies here still have salt water on them that has yet to subside. But the tsunami deposited more than just seawater. It's also left behind toxic chemicals, industrial waste, oil, and heavy metals, all harmful to the soil. Japan had the most advanced irrigation system in the world, but the tsunami destroyed that too. And it could take at least 5 to 10 years before the land is usable again.
There is sand and sludge from the ocean that is covering the fields. This must be removed first before pouring in fresh water. The longer the salt stays, the worse it is for the land.
But it isn't just the environment that's being affected. The 80 million tons of debris that tsunami scattered over the landscape includes material potentially that's harmful to humans as well.
The number of pneumonia patients has increased by 10 times. These patients have inhaled harmful particles such as dried sludge and chemicals. In the long run, 20 to 30 years from now, we will see lung cancers and other illnesses from inhaling asbestos.
To protect themselves, many wear respiratory masks, but that's no sure defense. It's going to be a long struggle for the people here to get their lives back to normal and to make their land fertile once again.
Hey YouTube, Freedom for Kaz here. Hey, how's it going out there today? It is another weekend here in the States, and you know, when is this Japanese crisis going to end? You know, they're talking about the farming over in Japan now, and it's amazing. They just now started to put regulations on the fishing industry over there. That part I don't get. I'm shocked that they haven't done any regulations until now, because just in my honest opinion, there's so much radiation going into the Pacific Ocean that you know, with the migration of the sea animals, especially like the Atlantic salmon, you know, and larger fish like that, you know, they do have a swim cycle, much like the fish here in the Great Lakes, like the salmon that are in the Great Lakes. You know, once they're born, they kind of stay in the Great Lakes, but for 3 years they make their way out to the Atlantic Ocean, and a lot of them swim out in the Atlantic Ocean, and then when it's time for them to lay their eggs, they make their way back to the Great Lakes, and then they lay their eggs, and then they die. And it just seems like a lot of people can't seem to comprehend the migration patterns of some of the fish in the Pacific Ocean. And granted, you know, smaller fish eat the plants, bigger fish eat the smaller fish, and so on and so forth. That radiation is just going to eventually spread. I mean, it may not be showing up in restaurants currently, but in a year from now, when people tend to forget what's going on, you may see the radiation show up then. But, you know, besides just the sea fish, you know, it's Japan's crop time right now, and as you know, Japan grows a lot of rice. So, with farming on the horizon over there, much like it is in the United States, you know, when is this crisis going to come to an end? And honestly, with the links that are underneath, they really can't pinpoint any particular time when this is going to end. And not only that, it's going to cost countless funding to repair these, if not repair them, then to just get them to hibernate and eventually stop the radiation. Now, in a couple of these articles I found, they're saying it could be 10 years before they finally get these under control. Does that mean that the radiation is going to leak into the air and into the water for the next 10 years? It's possible. I'd hate to think of that, but it's possible. Moving on in the same direction, you know, for those of us who live in the United States and who are preppers like myself, you know, I try to teach my son as much as I possibly can. It's, you know, statements like this that just make you wonder, why aren't people prepared? And I quote, this is from a Japanese woman. They were asking questions in a shelter about their opinions and stuff. And this woman said, I quote, "You know, this disaster we thought was something that happens in a faraway country. We never expected it to happen to us." And it's just that mindset, you know, people don't think it's going to happen to them. I mean, look at what happened in Hurricane Katrina. You know, it's just, if you don't prepare for something and then when it happens, then you're scrambling. But if you prepare and you get ready and you have your bug out bag or you have your supplies, you know, wherever you need them, and then when something happens, you know, that's just a whole lot less stress that's going to be added to the equation. Now, speaking about the equation, it says here that there's about 300,000 registered people living in 2,300 official evacuation sites. But they're saying that with the unregistered people there, it could easily, that number could be put at 500,000 people in the evacuation sites. So it's hard to say, you know, a 500,000 people who have lost their homes, businesses, and areas to live in Japan. You know, that's a tough pill to swallow. And some of the major things that are going on over there and related to them losing their homes are stress, fatigue, influenza, and infection. Those are the four main things that are going on over there. And with the supplies just kind of trickling in, it's kind of hard to stay on top of some of these illnesses and disorders and the way that these people are feeling. I can't imagine how it would be to be in a evacuation home with nothing left on your back, you know. Again, that's why I'm a prepper, and that's why I make these YouTube videos, and I try to teach as many people as I possibly can. And again, with my son, I try to teach him the importance of prepping, because when something like this happens, we'll be ready. And, you know, just kind of continuing on with, you know, again, with the farming and the soil, I mean, you know, Japan is very, very concerned that if they do start farming, the radiation is going to go into the rice, and then that, again, is going to make our way to our dinner table. Now, something that I noticed here in Michigan in the last week or so is that rice has gone up about 16 to 20 cents per pound. I don't know if you've noticed that increase in your grocery store, but I've noticed it in my grocery store. And, you know, I'm just kind of wondering what's going on with that. So, you know, I'll leave you with that. Just watch the ending video, and, you know, God bless everybody.
The crippled nuclear power plant at Fukushima continues to cast a shadow over Japan. A breakthrough, though, appears to have been reached. After trying everything from sawdust to newspapers to stop radioactive water from leaking into the sea, sodium silicate, or liquid glass, seems to have worked. But the leak is just one of the plant's many problems. The reactor's fuel rods still need to be kept from overheating, so water has to be pumped in to keep them cool. But there's now some 60,000 tons of contaminated water in the facility, and that has to be removed for cooling to continue. As a partial solution, low-level radioactive water was being dumped into the sea earlier this week, raising concerns not just in Japan, but across the world.
I regret the fact that we are causing a lot of concern to people in neighbouring countries. Some people abroad, and at the Ministry of Agriculture, have pointed out that we have not been reporting the situation fully.
But it's all the government seems to be doing a lot of lately, apologizing. Prime Minister Naoto Kan met officials from Fukushima municipalities earlier, and they expressed frustration at being forced from their homes and losing their livelihoods.
We cannot see light in our life as evacuees, as we have no outlook for our future. Many evacuees cannot carry on living like this. So I urge you to give us the specific direction.
Farmers around Fukushima continue to work, though demand has dropped because of concerns about radiation. And fishermen now have to contend with radiation guidelines for seafood. High levels were measured in marine life in the area just days ago. Compensation will be given to those most affected, but this by no means makes any of the residents feel much better. Their lives have been overturned, and they still can't see a light at the end of the tunnel.